Picture this. Europe in the early 1800s. Empires are crumbling. Kings are trembling. The continent is a patchwork of power struggles, with each nation vying for dominance. The old order is being challenged, and the winds of change are blowing fiercely. And in walks Napoleon Bonaparte, a man who wasn't exactly tall, but cast a giant shadow. His presence was commanding, his ambition boundless. Despite his modest height, he stood head and shoulders above his contemporaries in terms of influence and impact. Born on the island of Corsica, Napoleon wasn't supposed to be a ruler, let alone an emperor. Corsica was a rugged, remote place, far from the centers of power. Yet, from these humble beginnings, he would rise to reshape the world. His early life was marked by a fierce determination to prove himself, to rise above his circumstances. But he had a mind for strategy sharper than a freshly sharpened baguette. His intellect was his greatest weapon, allowing him to outthink and outmaneuver his enemies. He approached warfare like a grandmaster approaches chess, always several moves ahead. Napoleon wasn't just about brute force. He was a chess master on a battlefield the size of a continent. His campaigns were meticulously planned, each move calculated to bring him closer to his ultimate goal. He understood the importance of logistics, of supply lines, and of morale. He understood that winning battles wasn't just about having more soldiers, it was about outsmarting your opponent. His ability to adapt to changing circumstances, to turn the tide of battle with a single decisive action, was legendary. His generals trusted him implicitly, knowing that his strategies would lead them to victory. Think of him like the galaxy's most cunning strategist, moving his armies like celestial bodies, each perfectly placed to achieve victory. His campaigns were like celestial events, rare and awe-inspiring, leaving a lasting impact on the world. His rise to power was as swift as a comet streaking across the night sky. In a few short years, he went from an obscure artillery officer to the ruler of France. His ascent was meteoric, driven by his unparalleled ambition and his ability to seize opportunities. From a young artillery officer, he rose through the ranks, his ambition fueled by a desire to reshape not just France, but the entire European map. He saw himself as a man of destiny, chosen to bring about a new order. His vision extended beyond the battlefield, encompassing political and social reforms that would leave a lasting legacy. And reshape it he did, through a series of dazzling victories that left his enemies bewildered and in awe. His campaigns were marked by their speed and decisiveness, often catching his opponents off guard. His troops, inspired by his leadership, fought with unparalleled fervor. But like a supernova, Napoleon's reign, though brilliant, was destined to be brief. His relentless ambition eventually led to overreach, and the very qualities that had brought him success became his undoing. His enemies learned from their defeats, and the coalition against him grew stronger. His ambition, which had taken him to such heights, would eventually lead to his downfall. The very strategies that had once brought him victory now led to his defeat. His final campaigns were marked by desperation as he struggled to hold on to his empire. But his legacy? That, my friends, would continue to shape the destiny of nations for centuries to come. The Napoleonic Code, his military innovations, and his vision of a unified Europe left an indelible mark on history. Even in defeat, Napoleon remained a giant on the world stage. His influence felt long after his fall. Austerlitz. The very name sends shivers down the spines of history buffs and military strategists. It is a name synonymous with one of the most brilliant military maneuvers in history. Imagine a crisp December morning in 1805. The air is cold, biting at the skin, and the ground is hard with frost. The sun is barely up, and a blanket of fog hangs heavy over the battlefield. Visibility is low, and the world seems eerily quiet, as if holding its breath. Two massive armies face each other, the French led by Napoleon, and the combined forces of Austria and Russia. The tension is palpable, the stakes incredibly high. Now, the Austrians and Russians, they thought they had Napoleon right where they wanted him. They outnumbered him, see? Big mistake. They were confident, perhaps too confident, in their numerical superiority. Napoleon, he was a master of deception. He had a mind that could see several moves ahead, like a grandmaster in a game of chess. He allowed the enemy to think they had the upper hand, luring them into a trap as cleverly designed as the rings of Saturn. His plans were intricate, his strategies flawless. As the fog began to lift, the Allies made their move, attacking what they thought was a weak point in the French lines. They believed they were on the verge of a decisive victory. But Napoleon, he was already one step ahead. He had anticipated their every move, and his troops were prepared for the onslaught. He had strategically placed his troops on the high ground, ready to unleash a devastating counterattack. The high ground gave them a significant advantage, both in terms of visibility and tactical positioning. The result? A crushing defeat for the Allies. Their overconfidence had led them straight into Napoleon's trap, and they paid the price dearly. Austerlitz wasn't just a victory. It was a symphony of military precision, a testament to Napoleon's genius, and a turning point in European history. It showcased the brilliance of his strategic mind and cemented his reputation as one of the greatest military leaders of all time. So, how did Napoleon do it? How did he rise from a relatively obscure Corsican officer to become one of the most formidable military leaders in history? How did he conquer so many enemies, often against overwhelming odds? What was his secret to achieving such unprecedented success on the battlefield? Well, for starters, he threw out the old rulebook. He wasn't afraid to challenge the established norms and conventions of warfare that had been followed for centuries. See, back then, armies would line up in neat rows and just blast away at each other. Not very efficient, right? Napoleon, he was different. He saw the flaws in these outdated tactics and sought to revolutionize them. He was all about speed, surprise, and knowing the battlefield like the back of his hand. His troops moved with a swiftness and precision that left his enemies bewildered and unable to respond effectively. He didn't just react, he anticipated his enemies' moves, often staying one step ahead, like a grandmaster playing chess against multiple opponents at once. His strategic foresight was unparalleled. One of his favorite tactics was the central position. This strategy allowed him to maintain a flexible and dynamic approach to warfare. Imagine a triangle, with Napoleon's army at the center. This central position enabled him to strike out in any direction, reinforcing weak points and exploiting enemy vulnerabilities. This allowed him to quickly reinforce any point under attack, keeping his enemies off balance. His ability to rapidly shift his forces was a game-changer in military strategy. It's like playing a game of cosmic billiards, using your opponent's momentum against them. Napoleon's understanding of momentum and positioning was key to his success. But Napoleon's true genius lay in his ability to adapt. He was never rigid in his plans and could change tactics on the fly to suit the evolving conditions of the battlefield. He understood that no two battlefields were the same. Each presented its own unique challenges and opportunities, and he was adept at identifying and exploiting them. He studied maps, analyzed terrain, and factored in everything from the weather to the morale of his troops. His meticulous preparation ensured that he was always ready for any eventuality. In a universe of constant change, Napoleon Bonaparte was the ultimate adapter. His ability to remain flexible and responsive to the ever-changing dynamics of warfare set him apart from his contemporaries and cemented his legacy as one of history's greatest military minds. Now, let's talk about artillery. In Napoleon's day, cannons were the big guns, literally. But unlike his enemies, who used them like oversized noisemakers, Napoleon saw their true potential. He was like a conductor, orchestrating a symphony of destruction. He reorganized his artillery, creating mobile units that could be rapidly deployed wherever needed. He also emphasized accuracy over sheer firepower. Instead of just lobbing cannonballs randomly, his gunners were trained to hit specific targets, like enemy formations or fortifications. This innovative use of artillery gave Napoleon a decisive edge on the battlefield. It allowed him to soften up enemy positions before launching an attack, break up their formations, and demoralize their troops. In the hands of Napoleon, artillery wasn't just a weapon, it was a force of nature, as awe-inspiring and terrifying as a volcanic eruption. Napoleon's impact went far beyond the battlefield. His victories sent shockwaves across Europe, shattering old alliances and redrawing the political map. He was like a cosmic sculptor, molding the continent to his will. His conquests led to the collapse of the Holy Roman Empire, a relic of the past. He spread the ideals of the French Revolution: liberty, equality, fraternity, even as he crowned himself emperor. It was a paradox, a cosmic dance between revolution and empire. Napoleon's legal reforms, known as the Napoleonic Code, had a lasting impact on Europe and beyond. This code standardized laws, promoted equality before the law, and is still the basis for legal systems in many countries today. It was a legacy that transcended his military conquests, shaping the very fabric of society. In the vast tapestry of history, Napoleon Bonaparte stands out as a colossal figure. He was a military genius, a ruthless conqueror, and a complex, contradictory leader. His story is a reminder that even the brightest stars can burn out quickly, leaving behind a legacy that continues to shape our world. Napoleon's innovative tactics, his emphasis on speed and maneuverability, his mastery of artillery, these became the gold standard for military strategists for generations to come. He showed the world that victory wasn't just about brute force, but about intelligence, adaptability, and the will to reshape the playing field. Like a supernova that leaves behind a nebula, Napoleon's empire may have been short-lived, but its impact was profound and far-reaching. His legacy continues to inspire debate and discussion, reminding us of the enduring power of ideas, ambition, and the human capacity for both brilliance and destruction.